Hey everyone, welcome back.
Yeah.
So we are diving into the world of Tony Slattery today, a unique comedic force.
For sure.
You might have seen the headlines
Yeah.
about his passing, and yeah, it's a loss.
It is.
But this deep dive is about celebrating the guy, his humor, and frankly, the man behind all those iconic laughs.
Yeah.
He was so much more than just a comedian,
Right.
especially in the world of improv.
Yes.
Think, whose line is it? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what a lot of folks know him from.
Yeah.
But he was also brilliant on shows like Just a Minute.
Have I got news for you?
Have I Got News for You? Even popped up on Red Dwarf for you sci-fi fans out there.
Absolutely.
Right. So even years later,
Yeah.
tributes are pouring in from comedy legends.
They are.
We've got Stephen Fry calling Slattery
Oh, yeah.
screamingly funny.
Screamingly funny, yeah.
And Al Murray, another giant in the industry, calling him a dazzling talent. So clearly,
Huge talent.
this wasn't just, your average funny man.
No, this is...
So paint the picture for me a little.
Yeah.
What made Slattery so captivating?
Well, he was a master of improvisational humor,
Okay.
which was fairly new to the UK scene at the time.
I see.
You think about it. Whose line? Thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
Creating something hilarious out of thin air.
Right.
Slattery could take any suggestion,
Yeah.
no matter how bizarre,
Yeah.
and spin it into comedic gold. He really pushed the boundaries of what was considered funny, especially in a scene that was more used to scripted humor.
So it sounds like he was kind of a pioneer in a way.
In many ways, he was.
Now we can't talk about Slattery without mentioning the Cambridge Footlights.
The Footlights. Oh, yeah.
Right. It's like the comedy boot camp.
The breeding ground.
That launched 1,000 stars.
Yeah.
We're talking Fry, Laurie, Thompson, like a comedic Avengers team up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was it about this group
Um,
that made them such a comedic powerhouse?
Well, the Footlights were known for their elite, experimental, almost rebellious style of comedy. It was a breeding ground for talent.
Yeah.
But more than that,
Yeah.
it fostered a sense of camaraderie and pushed people to take risks.
I see.
It wasn't just about telling jokes, it was about pushing the boundaries of humor and performance.
So Slattery's group, they didn't just participate.
No.
They actually won the first ever Perrier Comedy Award
Yeah, back in 1981.
back in 1981 for their show, The Cellar Tapes.
That's right, the Cellar Tapes.
That's like winning a comedy Oscar
It is.
right out of the gate.
It's a massive deal for comedians, especially starting out and past winners. You've got the likes of Steve Coogan,
Yeah.
Dylan Moran, Bridget Christie.
Oh, wow.
Have all gone on to have incredibly successful careers.
Yeah.
So for Slattery and his group to win the very first one
All right.
speaks volumes about their talent and the impact that they had on the comedy world.
And get this.
Yeah.
Slattery wasn't just a member.
No,
He was the president of the Footlights.
he was.
I mean, that takes a certain level of leadership and organizational skill.
For sure, yeah.
Right. Not just the ability to make people laugh.
Exactly. Being president of the Footlights
Yeah.
is a demanding role.
Yeah.
It requires vision,
Yeah.
the ability to bring together diverse talents,
Right.
and of course, a strong sense of humor.
Yeah.
So even back then, we see glimpses of Slattery's multifaceted personality.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a funny man. He was a leader, an organizer,
Right.
someone who could inspire and motivate others.
We've been focusing on all the laughs.
Right.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to Slattery's story that deserves our attention.
Absolutely.
And that's his openness about his struggles with mental health.
That's right.
He famously said, and I'm quoting here,
Yeah.
I went slightly barmy.
He did.
And
Yeah.
this is a crucial part of Slattery's legacy.
For sure.
His willingness to openly discuss his battles
Yeah.
with bipolar disorder
Yes.
and substance abuse was truly groundbreaking,
Absolutely. Yeah.
especially at a time when mental health was heavily stigmatized.
Hugely.
And it wasn't just that he talked about it,
No.
but how he talked about it, right?
Yeah.
With honesty, humor, and without shame.
Completely.
So he really challenged that sad clown stereotype
Yeah.
and paved the way
For sure.
for more open conversation
Yeah.
about mental health, especially within the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. He didn't shy away
Right.
from the difficult aspects of his experience. And in doing so,
Yeah.
I think he helped break down barriers and encouraged others to seek help.
Yeah.
He challenged the idea that performers had to put on a brave face,
Right.
regardless of what they were going through.
Right.
He made it okay to not be okay.
So we've talked about his early career, his comedic brilliance,
Yeah.
his openness about his mental health.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
I think it's important to remember that Slattery's struggles didn't define him.
Yeah.
He was so much more than his diagnosis. He was a talented performer, a leader,
Yeah.
and someone who continued to create and entertain even while battling his own demons.
Yeah.
His story is one of resilience,
I like that.
of finding joy in the face of adversity, and of using his platform to make a difference.
So let's dive deeper into Slattery's later years, his return to the stage, and the impact he continued to have on the world of comedy and beyond.
Let's do it. When we talk about Slattery being ahead of his time with mental health, it's important to understand the context of the entertainment industry back then.
Okay, fill me in. Was it really that different from today?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was this huge unspoken pressure on performers
Yeah.
to be on all the time, to make everyone else happy.
Right.
Admitting vulnerability, especially for men,
Right.
was seen as a weakness.
Okay.
It was like you had to be the life of the party,
Uh-huh.
even if you were falling apart inside.
And Slattery just kind of blew that out of the water.
He did,
Yeah.
by talking about his struggles.
Yeah.
He chipped away at that stiff upper lip mentality, especially in the entertainment world.
So he was very open about his bipolar diagnosis.
He was, the highs, the lows, how it affected his relationships
Yeah.
and career.
Okay.
Think about that BBC documentary in 2020, What's the Matter with Tony Slattery?
Right.
It was a raw, honest look at his journey, and I think it made a lot of people feel less alone.
It's interesting because even in his comedy,
Yeah.
you can see those glimpses of vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching some of his Who's Line bits,
Right.
and even when he's being silly,
Yeah.
there's this genuine emotion underneath it all.
Yeah.
It's like he couldn't help but bring his full self to this stage,
That's it.
even if it meant being a bit raw.
That's what made him so compelling.
Yeah.
He wasn't just delivering jokes, he was sharing a part of himself.
Right.
And audiences connected with that authenticity. It made him more relatable, more human.
It's kind of tragic, you know,
It is.
to think about how much pressure entertainers face to be on all the time.
All the time. Makes you wonder
Yeah.
who looks out for them.
It's a good question. And honestly, it's something the industry is still grappling with.
Yeah.
The pressure to succeed, to stay relevant, to constantly churn out content
Yeah.
can be immense.
Right.
We've seen the consequences time and time again: burnout, addiction, mental health crises.
Yeah.
It's a demanding profession, both physically and emotionally.
And for a long time, it was taboo to talk about this stuff.
It was like you had to just suck it up and keep performing.
Right. Exactly.
But thankfully, that's starting to change.
Yeah.
More and more performers are speaking out,
Yeah.
advocating for better support systems within the industry,
Right.
and pushing for a greater understanding of the challenges that they face.
You think Slattery being so open about his journey paved the way for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He gave other performers permission to say, hey, it's okay not to be okay,
Right.
and it's okay to ask for help.
It was a huge step toward destigmatizing mental health within the entertainment world and beyond.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about Slattery's later years.
Okay.
You mentioned he returned to acting and comedy after taking time for himself.
He did.
What were some of the highlights of that period?
Well, you mentioned his podcast, Tony Slattery's Rambling Club,
Yes.
which was fascinating.
Right.
Allowed him to connect with fans in a very personal way,
Right.
sharing stories, musings, even those rambling thoughts
Yeah.
that gave the podcast its name.
Yeah.
It was a different side of Slattery,
Yeah.
more introspective, perhaps, but still full of that signature wit.
He wasn't just limited to podcasts, right?
No.
He returned to acting as well.
He did, and not just in comedic roles.
Okay.
He played a detective in an episode of Father Brown, for example.
Oh, wow.
And had a recurring role in the medical drama Holby City.
Right.
Showed a real versatility
Yeah.
in his talent.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a funny man. He was a skilled actor capable of conveying a range of emotions.
It's inspiring to see him reclaim his craft after going through such a difficult period.
It is.
He could have easily retreated from the public eye,
Yeah,
but he chose to keep creating,
he did.
keep sharing his gifts with the world.
Exactly, and that speaks volumes about his resilience and passion.
Yeah.
It would have been easy to let the challenges define him,
Right.
but he didn't.
Right.
He chose to keep moving forward, to keep pursuing his art.
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful message for anyone facing adversity.
It's like that saying,
Yeah.
the show must go on.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's what Slattery did.
He did.
He kept going even when it was hard.
Yeah.
He didn't let his struggles limit his potential.
And in doing so, he left a legacy that goes far beyond just laughter.
Right.
He entertained us.
Yeah.
He challenged us.
Yeah.
And he inspired us to be more open and compassionate about mental health.
So for our listener
Yeah.
who might have known Tony Slattery mainly from Whose Line?
Right. Or those hilarious game show appearances.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you hope they take away from this deep dive?
I think it's the understanding that Slattery was a complex individual.
Yeah.
The brilliance, the humor, the vulnerability, the struggles, the resilience, it was all part of who he was.
Yeah.
His life wasn't a simple narrative.
Right.
It was full of contradictions, of highs and lows, of triumphs and setbacks.
Yeah.
And by appreciating that,
Yeah.
by seeing the full picture, we can gain a deeper appreciation, not just for his work,
Right.
but for the man himself.
I love it's a reminder that we're all complex beings.
Yeah.
Even those who seem to have it all figured out.
Yes.
And that even those who make us laugh the hardest might be fighting their own battles behind the scenes.
Absolutely. It's a call for greater empathy and understanding,
Yeah.
not just for performers, but for everyone.
Well said. Okay. As we start to wrap up this deep dive into Tony Slattery's life and legacy,
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
About the unique pressures faced by artists and performers.
Yeah.
We celebrate their talent. We enjoy their work.
Yeah.
But as audience members,
Yeah.
do we have a responsibility
Yeah.
to be more mindful of the toll it might take on them?
That's a great question. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth asking ourselves, how can we support the artists we admire,
Yeah.
knowing they're human beings with their own complexities and challenges?
Right.
How can we create a culture that values both the art and the artist?
Maybe it starts with recognizing
Yeah.
that they're people, not just performers.
Yeah.
And that even those who seem larger than life
Yeah.
still needs support and understanding.
Absolutely. And it might involve advocating for better working conditions within the entertainment industry,
Yeah.
for greater access to mental health resources,
Yeah.
and for a more compassionate understanding of the pressures that artists face.
As we've been talking, I've been thinking about that quote from Slattery.
Yeah.
I went slightly barmy.
Yeah.
And while it's a humorous way of putting it,
It is.
it points to something profound.
Right.
The idea that mental health challenges
Yeah.
can affect anyone,
Absolutely.
even those who seem to have it all together.
That's so true. And it's a reminder that we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in creating a more supportive and understanding society.
Yeah.
One where people feel comfortable seeking help when they need it,
Yeah.
and where mental health is treated with the same seriousness as physical health.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
No,
We've celebrated Tony Slattery's comedic brilliance,
for sure.
explored the complexities of his life,
Yeah.
and delved into important questions about mental health, resilience, and the pressures faced by performers.
We have.
And I hope our listener has come away with a deeper appreciation for the man behind the laughter,
Me too.
for the impact he had on the world, and for the importance of continuing the conversation about mental health.
Couldn't agree more.
So for our listener out there who might have known Tony Slattery, mainly from Whose Line or those hilarious game show appearances, what's the one thing you hope they take away from this deep dive? What's the part of the story that maybe wasn't in the headlines?
Well, I think it's the understanding that Slattery was a complex individual. The brilliance, the humor, the vulnerability, the struggles, the resilience, it was all part of who he was. His life wasn't a simple narrative. It was full of contradictions, of highs and lows, of triumphs and setbacks. And by appreciating that, by seeing the full picture, we can gain a deeper appreciation, not just for his work, but for the man himself.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're all complex beings,
Yeah.
even those who seem to have it all figured out. And those who make us laugh the hardest might be fighting their own battles behind the scenes.
Absolutely. It's a call for greater empathy and understanding, not just for performers, but for everyone.
Well said. Now, as we move toward wrapping up this deep dive, what is one thing about Tony Slattery that surprised you? Was it the sheer range of his talent, the openness about his mental health journey, or maybe even the Cambridge Footlights connection? I bet a lot of people didn't know he was president of that legendary group.
You know what's fascinating to me is that we started this deep dive because of Slattery's passing, but we've uncovered so much more than just a comedian's life story.
It's true. And I think what surprised me the most was how his story challenges our perception of success.
In what way?
It wasn't this straight climb for Slattery, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had those incredible highs, the Footlights, Whose Line, but also periods of struggle, setbacks. Yet those experiences, those detours, if anything, they make his comeback even more remarkable.
It's true. His story reminds us that setbacks are a part of life, and sometimes the comeback is even stronger because of them.
Yeah. Slattery found his way back to what he loved, and he did it on his own terms. That's powerful stuff.
It really is. And I think there's a lesson for all of us in that no matter what challenges we face, it's never too late to rediscover those passions, chase those dreams, find a way to make a meaningful contribution, whatever that looks like for you.
So for our listener out there, what's one thing about Tony Slattery that surprised you? Was it the sheer range of his talent? The openness about his mental health journey? Maybe the Cambridge Footlights connection?
Yeah.
I bet you didn't know he was president of that legendary group.
You know, for me, it's the lasting impact of his vulnerability. He showed us that it's okay to talk about our struggles, to ask for help, to embrace our complexities. And by doing so, we can not only find healing for ourselves, but contribute to a more compassionate and understanding world for others.
That's a beautiful thought. And a perfect note to end on, I think. We've explored the life and legacy of Tony Slattery, a truly unique comedic force who left an undeniable mark on entertainment and beyond. We've laughed, we've learned, and hopefully, we've gained a deeper understanding of the human experience, both the light and the shadows.
And as we say goodbye to Tony Slattery, let's carry forward his humor, his honesty, and that remarkable resilience. May we all find the strength to embrace our own complexities and make our own unique mark on the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those laughs coming.